All right, cool. Let me just check. It says we're live, but let me just check in the group because sometimes it'll say it and then we're not. All right, there we go. We are. Hey, good evening, mamas. I hope everybody is doing well and that your day has ended well. The day started off a little bit dingy, but now we are into a sunny period. And I don't know if you're outside or if you're indoors sitting on your porch, but we have some really vital information. We're back with two of our favorite guests that we have all the time. We have Mrs. Jada Shirriel, and am I saying your name right, Jada Shirriel?
Yes.
Shirriel?
Yep.
Cool.
Yes. You got it.
From Healthy Start, and we have Demia Tyler also from Healthy Start. We are really excited to continue our relationship with Healthy Start as a partner in providing us with vital information as it relates to childbirth and as it relates to breastfeeding and pretty much everything that you can possibly think of about how to take care of your baby in those early days, how to recognize the signs that they are doing healthy and that you are doing healthy and the signs that you may not. So today we're going to be talking about the formula shortage. I'm sure you all have heard about it. You've talked about it with your friends in the Pittsburgh Brown Mamas group with your family members. Some of y'all might still be running around trying to find different types of formula for your babies. And so we really wanted to come in um, and get some guidance from our partners over at Healthy Start and really just make sure that you all understand how to navigate these formula infant feeding streets as this shortage continues throughout the rest of the year. Because from what I've read, even though things have gotten better, we are still in the midst of a formula shortage. And there's evidence of that because when we posted about going live about this subject a few days ago, a mom immediately came in the comments and said she was still struggling. So first, let's just start off by having Jada and Demia introduce themselves once again for any mamas who might be new to the Pittsburgh Brown Mamas community, and just talk about what you guys do over at Healthy Start.
Sure. Thanks, Muffy. I'll get us started. I'm Jada Shirriel. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Healthy Start. And that just means it's my job to make sure that the organization, that the lights stay on and the doors stay open, as they say. But our focus as an organization is to support moms, pregnant people, and their new families as they navigate the increasingly complex world of motherhood. So that's why it's such a delightful opportunity to have a conversation with you, Muffy, and the rest of the Brown Mamas. I'm part of the Brown Mamas community. So our work includes providing direct service to our community focus of Black women and birthing people and their families. And also systems change work. So we take a public health focus and approach to our work, looking at the total context that our families live in. So what we now talk about a lot as social determinants of health and how that impacts, how those community factors impact our health, with the focus, of course, again, on the perinatal period. Demia?
Yeah, my name is Demia Tyler. As Muffy mentioned, I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for Healthy Start. And so basically what that means is that I develop programming, advise around our programming across the agency, and sometimes manage programming as well. And I really think Jada did a really great job at like kind of summarizing the work that we do across the agency and why it's so important to the community. Just to highlight some of our programming that some of you may be familiar with. We have a doula program, a postpartum doula program, a breastfeeding, our Healthy Start Center for Urban Breastfeeding program, which is an initiative that's specifically focused on increasing breastfeeding rates among Black families in Allegheny County. In addition to our longstanding home visiting and perinatal support program, where we provide support prenatally until children turn 18. And so we provide, again, prenatal support, so what to expect while you're pregnant and then in that postpartum period, and then information around just general child development, parenting, and other supports that you might need in that postpartum period.
Thank you for that information, Jada and Demia. So first, let's just get started by centering ourselves in this conversation and talk a little bit about the formula shortage itself. So for anybody who's on this, who's watching this, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook, Are we posting to Insta? I don't know if we're going to Insta or not. But if you're on Insta, and we are on Insta, make sure we want to make sure we center in this conversation what's actually happening in the United States around the formula shortage right now. So for anybody that's on the call, can you ladies just talk a little bit about how the formula shortage happened, and is it as serious as people are making it out to be?
So I'll start. Sorry, I'm like the toddler that can't drink water. That's me. So the formula shortage began because of unsanitary conditions in one of our largest manufacturing plants that manufactures formula. And when that came to light, then we have supply chain issues in the middle of a pandemic, where I'm sure there are other factors impacting supply chain issues. So it really brought about the conversation around, again, the safety of how we feed our infants. And there had already been concern for poisonous and hazardous chemicals in formulas and baby foods. Bacteria, Chronobacter, which can be a very dangerous and deadly bacteria that can be in your powder formula. So the shortage happened because of unsanitary conditions in one of our largest formula factories that caused a recall.
And in terms of what was the second part of the question? Just want to make sure I follow up with you. Um, in terms of the media portrayal of it, because at the beginning it was like huge, it was everywhere, and now we're not even seeing it as much. So if anybody is questioning whether this is a relevant issue, can you all speak to that? Is this issue still a relevant issue? Like, what are you all seeing at Healthy Start, specifically being an organization that focuses on infant feeding as one of its imperatives?
I think, Muffy, you kind of spoke to this earlier, in that it has absolutely gotten better. And so that is what we're seeing. We're hearing a lot less about it. There's also been a number of resources circulated so that families know like where to go to find formula. And so we're seeing the formula crisis get better, but we're still in the middle of a formula crisis. Like you said, there was a mom who reached out, and, once you posted about this live, and said that she's still struggling around formula, there's still a shortage. And so we still have families who are trying to figure out how to access formula for their babies, and especially babies that are on special formulas, because, it takes a while longer and there's less alternatives for special formulas for babies who are on special diets, whether they have GERD or some other sensitivities. There's even a shorter supply for their specific formula. So we are still in the formula crisis. And I would say that it's a crisis because anytime a baby can't eat, we're in the middle of a crisis. So I don't think the media portrayal is inaccurate. And I think that any parent who tried to find formula or was, went to the store and saw those bare shelves are aware that it's a crisis. And then I think even more so the families who are still experiencing that, who go to their local grocery stores and their supply is really limited in there and they have to grab what they can, or there's a limitation on how many cans you can get. They recognize that we're in a formula crisis as well.
I think another aspect of that is, like you said, once people have real lives aside from the media wave. So it may be that the media wave or that the media focus has shifted, but in community, we still see the cause and effect. So we still see that some moms are struggling to figure out how they'll get formula, or even the after effect of deciding to make some alternative choices around infant feeding that may not have been ideal, but were choices that a family felt that they had to make in the circumstance. So I think this is a really good example of, of course, we trust and rely on the media to some extent to help us understand the bigger picture. But a lot of times the media moves on, but the issues still remain in the community.
Absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about why this is so important in terms of like, what is the difference between infant formula and breast milk, and what you could feed your baby in absence of that, like cow's milk, like homemade milk. Let's talk a little bit about the substantive value and difference there, because I'm sure you all have seen, I know there had even been some talk about it in the Brown Mamas group about moms trying to make formula at home. Like why is it important that you not feed your baby those things?
I can start, and I don't know if we kicked off by acknowledging that August is breastfeeding month and this is Black Breastfeeding Week. We just jumped right in, and I started choking and then all that good stuff. So just want to acknowledge that it is Black Breastfeeding Week, and I think this is a great time to have this conversation because we really did want to capitalize on the opportunity that this unfortunate crisis has brought about to talk about infant feeding in a broader context. So breast milk, is biologically the gift that we get to give our child to feed them nutrients that are specifically designed for them during their phase of life. The composition of breast milk changes daily, hourly, in the moment, based on what the baby's needs are. You're able to carry antibodies from yourself and give them to your baby. So, I mean, we really believe, and public health and science believes, that breast milk is the gold standard for feeding. We also understand that breastfeeding comes with a lot of historical baggage in our community and personal baggage from person to person. It's not always easy to breastfeed for a number of reasons, whether it be personal reasons, whether it be because you have to return to work, whether it be because your family is not supportive. So there are a number of reasons that we understand that breastfeeding can be a very sensitive topic. However, our focus at Healthy Start is on supporting and promoting breastfeeding, but not over supporting and promoting infant feeding and healthy infants. So I just want to make that clear. The most important thing is that parents have the information that they need to make the choices that are best and healthiest for their babies. But we will always promote and educate on the benefits of breastfeeding because it is the gold standard. So it's kind of like, if I wanted to make an analogy between, maybe shopping at, stop shop, what's the one in Wilkinsburg? Stop and shop.
Stop and save or something like that. It's the generic.
Not
Save a lot.
Save a lot. Okay.
Save a
So,
lot.
And all jokes aside, for real though, all jokes aside, it could be the difference between shopping at Save a Lot and maybe shopping at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. We got to feed our babies. We have to make choices, and some people have different resources, whether they be the resource of time, whether they be the resource of mental health capacity, whether they be the resource of support. But there's a continuum. And so, but there is a true difference between formula and breast milk. I mean, formula is a chemical that's made to be able to balance the nutrients that an infant needs. So I'm not saying that formula is not, it's made to be safe for infants based on their needs, based on their nutritional needs. And so the dangerous thing is when we try to play scientists and make formulations for our infants. And I understand that back in the day, our parents had to do, and our grandparents and our ancestors had to do what they had to do, but now we know better and we have new information and we have new science. So we don't know how many children suffer from malnutrition, deficiencies, scurvy, those sorts of things that you get from not having the vitamins that you need, but it can be life or death for some children. And so the reason that we say, like, if you're having trouble finding formula and you're not breastfeeding, consult your pediatrician, is because you need to take into account the real nutritional biological needs of the infant before making, what is, I'm sure, well-intentioned. And I understand people have all kind of dietary preferences, and we can talk till we're blue in the face about the science. And some families are still going to make the choice that they want to make. But making homemade formula is not safe. It's not safe to meet the needs of an infant biologically.
And just to go, I know this isn't on our questions, but just to go into that a little bit, what are the biological needs of an infant that makes feeding your that makes breastfeeding ideal, and also that makes feeding your child something that's like a homemade concoction so potentially detrimental to their health?
Yeah, so I can't say the exact makeup, but there's proteins, fats, vitamins, and minerals that are specific to the period of development for your baby. And as Jada mentioned, it progresses. So when your baby's a newborn, there's a specific makeup and breakdown of that breast milk, and then so on, and that continues as they develop, which is also one of the reasons that you shouldn't introduce water, and it's not recommended that you introduce table foods until they're around 6 months, because the breast milk continuously evolves to provide them that breakup of fats, proteins, and vitamins that the baby needs for their period and development. Similarly, formula is created to attempt to mimic that, and so it has a similar makeup of proteins, fats, and vitamins to make sure that the babies are getting the nutrition that they need. So when you make a homemade substitute, we don't really know that it has the makeup of proteins, fats, vitamins that babies need to develop health-wise, nutritionally, for brain development, that the formula and the breast milk has. And that's why the home remedies are really discouraged, because it can lead to the malnutrition that Jada mentioned earlier.
Demia, I'm going to ask you some questions later that are like kind of off topic, but just every time you talk about breastfeeding, it makes me remember when you did your presentation about the granny midwives. And I just think that information was so, it was at the time you did it, it was enlightening for me. And I just feel like that's information we should give every time we talk about breastfeeding, just about the historical, messing with that happened with Black women around breastfeeding. But we'll just try to stick to the script for now, and if we have some extra time later we can talk about it. So just from going back to breastfeeding again, how does a mom know, like if you are in the middle of the formula shortage and you know that you don't want to make homemade formula for your child, and you know you want to offer them the best option that is available, how do you know if you can start breastfeeding again or not?
So, Muffy, are you asking about relactating? Like if you're
Yes.
not, if your, breast milk has dried up and you're a little further along.
Yes. Well, I
And
guess, how do you know if you could potentially breastfeed again? So like if you were feeding your baby formula and then you're running into these shortage issues and you're like, is it possible that I could breastfeed again? How do you even know if you can?
that's a really good question. And we know that a lot of kind of the conversations earlier on in the pandemic got very judgy and judgmental around, this is why you should be breastfeeding or just relactate, as if it's something that happens overnight. There are drugs that can help. So first of all, I would say definitely consult a professional, whether it be a certified lactation counselor or international board certified lactation consultant, or your doctor or your child's pediatrician. So I definitely want to say, please start with having this conversation with someone who has been trained in this area. There are drugs that can support relactation. Stimulation of the breasts and the nipples via pumping can support relactation. I don't know, and maybe Demia, if you know if there is a specific or prescribed time frame when you know that relactation will or won't happen. But I do know people who have relactated, particularly when, or who have induced their lactation when adopting. It wasn't, they still had to supplement in those instances, but it is possible. But if you're in a right here, right now crisis of having to feed your infant, that's not an immediate solution. And I think that was some of the some of the challenge of the conversations that were very judgmental around breastfeeding relactation, but at the same time want to capitalize on the opportunity to have more conversations about breastfeeding and planning for breastfeeding prenatally, and supporting women in our community to really lean into the option and the opportunity to breastfeed. Because anything can happen, but it wouldn't be a formula shortage crisis, So I think this is just a point in time where we can come back to this continual dialogue around infant feeding. What does it mean in our community? Why is it so controversial? How do we have these conversations without judgment? How do we support whatever choice the family makes that's a safe, healthy choice for them, but also really be realistic and honest about the fact that breastfeeding is the healthiest way to feed an infant?
Absolutely. So if a mom is experiencing shortage with her baby's formula right now, like what are the first steps that she should be taking in order to make sure that her baby is fed?
So it really depends on, and just kind of going back to what Jada just mentioned, it really depends on where they're at in their journey and how old their infant is. So if they're earlier postpartum, if their baby is just a few weeks, then relactation is a lot more feasible. Or even just trying to breastfeed to make sure that your milk isn't dried up. That's a lot more feasible in those early stages. But to the point that Jada just made, if you're later, like your baby's a couple months, you've not breastfed, and now you're being impacted by the formula shortage, then breastfeeding really isn't might not be the immediate resolution for you. And so a couple things that you can do, there are a number of social media groups that are posting around where formula is located. I know I saw some of that in Pittsburgh Brown Mamas. There's WIC, so you can reach out to WIC for formula if you are eligible. The Allegheny County Health Department has some resources, and then Healthy Start, we just launched our page where we'll be providing support and direction around where to access and find formula. Again, feeding in information from 211 and Allegheny County Health Department. So there are a number of different local resources for you to locate formula. But I just want to really emphasize again that if you're far in your journey, you've already been feeding your baby formula, then trying to switch to breastfeeding is not the immediate resolution for you.
Absolutely. And I just put the link in the comments for Healthy Start where you all can find more information about the formula shortage and what you can do if you are currently experiencing the shortage with your child. So click the link and it will take you to Healthy Start's website to get some more information. So let's go back and talk a little bit about those societal pressures. As we've seen all over social media, and I'm sure you've probably also just experienced this with your friends and your family members and other people, if you are a breastfeeding mom or even if you are a formula feeding mom. But let's talk about some of those societal pressures that really force divisiveness on this issue. From the perspective of working with moms on a day-to-day basis, Demia and Jada, what are you all seeing in terms of, just what moms are experiencing on a day-to-day basis that causes this to be such a divisive issue when really we're just talking about making sure that babies get fed in the healthiest way possible?
So when you say divisive issue, you mean between formula and breastfeeding?
Yes, because it
Okay.
seems like it's like, even though we're really just talking about feeding babies, it seems like people almost wrap their identities up in how they feed their babies. And so it becomes this larger issue than what it probably should be.
I agree, and it's multi-level. So there's the historical implications of why there's the historical and societal implications of why folks aren't breastfeeding, or why a lot of our community aren't breastfeeding their children, why we experience those lower rates. And then there is so that's one aspect of it. And then there's this, I think, shame around not breastfeeding your baby because breastfeeding is seen as the gold standard. And so as a reaction to that shame, it's pushback against the idea of breastfeeding, especially for moms who have tried breastfeeding and weren't successful. To hear that you should be breastfeeding almost feels like an attack. And sometimes, honestly, the way that it's presented, it kind of is an attack. But a lot of times, it's not. It's information is being presented about the benefits of breastfeeding, and because of the shame of either deciding not to breastfeed because it's just not what's best for your social context, or being unable to breastfeed, that information feels like a personal attack. It feels very personal. It reminds you of what you feel is a failure, despite the fact that you fed and raised your infant still alive. If you desired to breastfeed and were unable to do so for whatever reason, it feels like an attack. And so I think that that's partially where this divisiveness comes from. There's also like the nipple Nazis that make it not so, it makes it, if they make it so much worse, because there's not a level of understanding and flexibility around different people's situations, which just further causes a wedge between the two groups. But you're right, it's about feeding your baby. And for me, it's always about making sure that families have the most accurate information and the necessary support to be able to provide their children what's best. And sometimes, or to be able to make the best decision for their children. And sometimes that best decision is going to be breastfeeding and breast milk. And sometimes it's just not. And, my hope is that we can increase the breastfeeding rates among our Black families. But I'm never going to criticize someone for deciding not to breastfeed. And I think that it's important for more people who are advocating for breastfeeding to take on a more compassionate stance, so that we can get more families to open up and be more willing to breastfeed, and to also be open to the idea of breastfeeding even if they were unable to. So that's my viewpoint of it. It's so unfortunate. It really is.
Yeah, and I think language and how we talk about it is also really important, and can be either off-putting or can bring someone to it. And it makes me think about, I was at a forum when I first started at Healthy Start, and we were talking about, it was something the health department had hosted at City of Asylum on the north side. I can't remember what it was. Mia, you may remember, but we were doing groups, and there was like a panel. And as a 3-time cesarean mom, you hear people say like natural birth.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes you feel some kind of way. Like, you can choose to have a cesarean. I didn't, but my baby is still natural. My body is still natural. And this was just the way that I had to give birth. I really did not have a choice. And so Jaria Coffee, who most of us here in the Brown Mamas community know, said all birth is natural. And that made me feel so validated. And so now I have language whenever someone says, like, tries to distinguish. And a lot of times people will use the language like belly birth to make it not so stigmatizing for moms who have had to have C-sections. But I think it's very similar in that there is some amount of, oftentimes, some amount of whether it be shame or just remorse about experiences that we have had, especially if they were not in our control, or if they were not like our planned perfect experience. And so while the research and the evidence says there is a very low percentage of women who biologically cannot breastfeed, having gone through this journey personally and doing this work, I also again know that, as Demia mentioned, your personal social context makes all of the difference. You may choose to stop because it's too stressful. And 101 other different personal reasons. But I think we also have to be honest with ourselves and reflect on, where are these feelings coming from, and accept that these are our personal feelings based on our personal experience and our personal social context. And also knowing that every baby that you have, your experience can be different. So the experience that you may have had on baby number 1, whether it was physiological, my first child, I had mastitis. I had one breast that was producing more than the other. I was in graduate school. It was very painful for me for whatever reason, maybe because I didn't have the holistic support and education that I needed, and I supplemented. My second one was a little bit easier, but still supplemented. It still didn't feel like kind of like this was going to be a long-term thing. And on baby number 3, for whatever reason, I'm still breastfeeding. He's almost 2. So it can be very different each time. So there is an opportunity if you desire to have a different experience. So I think, language is important. It's important to be very aware of how we talk about it, both self-talk and how we talk about it to others, and really owning our choices. You have the choice to make, you have the option to make the choice that's best for you. And sometimes that choice it might be to get some relief from some formula. That might be what you, and that may also be it may not be your permanent choice. You may have to just step back a little, take a break, and come back around to it, but it's your choice. But I think we have to be honest with ourselves about the choices we make and why.
And also, as a community, it's about wanting better for our community, period, right? So it's about having compassion for the moms who are younger than us, or even just moms who are newer to the mom playing field than other moms, and really giving them the freedom to make the decision that's right for their baby. And because we want more for ourselves and for the community that is coming up around us, behind us, in front of us, it's really about making sure that they can make a choice that is best for their baby, despite what may have happened to you that may have been traumatic, or what may have happened to you that you didn't necessarily have control over. I'm similar to Jada. I had 3 C-sections. I had no idea I was even able to give natural birth because that was not an option that my doctors gave to me. But to say that I don't want other moms to have natural birth because I wasn't able to have it, because that was a situation that I wasn't in control of, is really not compassionate, especially with all the evidence showing that moms who have natural births, who give birth to their baby in serene settings, that feel trusted, and who feel empowered by their birthing experience, just have a better playing field when it comes to raising their baby. So it's really just about wanting better for our community, period, and acknowledging the experiences that may have happened to you during your motherhood journey that were not necessarily ideal. And instead of us going through, what Black communities do oftentimes, or Black folks do a lot of times, is we just say, well, that's just the way it is, or this is just the way it is, so everybody should do it this way because this didn't hurt nobody. But the reality is, did it hurt you? Like, maybe you do need to go back and examine that. Maybe that did hurt you. Maybe it did hurt you that you didn't have the support around you to breastfeed your baby. Or maybe it did hurt you that you didn't feel empowered by your physicians when you were in the hospital having your baby. So just going back and looking at those situations and having compassion for the moms that are coming up, because they deserve better. Like, even if we didn't have better, even if you didn't have better, I didn't have better, that doesn't mean they don't deserve better. So I'm in total agreement with Demia and Jada that, we really want to encourage our moms to do what's best for their babies and what's best for themselves. And we know that the social context, I love that word, I'm using it from now on, Demia, is, difficult for Black women. Like, we know that we're not necessarily making these choices. We're not given even the best choices to be able to make. Like I said, I didn't even know I could have natural birth. It was told to me, you had 1 C-section, you must have a C-section from now on. And I didn't know better to go and ask more questions. So knowing that these are the situations that we're often put in, let's be more compassionate towards each other and really inspire each other to want more and get more. Like, we have organizations like Healthy Start around for a reason, because they're advocacy organizations that can help us in terms of making better decisions, but also advocating for ourselves, so that the next mom doesn't have to have such dire choices or such limited choices. So let's just talk a little bit about the support that Healthy Start is offering right now in the midst of the formula shortage. So what are some of the options that moms have in terms of like different organizations they can go to? I see one of the moms already posted that Beverly's Birthdays has Formula Bank. And then also tell us a little bit about the Cub, because I think people are still learning about the Cub, the Center for Urban Breastfeeding.
Yes, so the Healthy Start Center for Urban Breastfeeding is Healthy Start's initiative to improve the breastfeeding rates among Black families in Allegheny County. In order to utilize the services, you do have to be Black and residing in Allegheny County. And our services are broken down into a few different categories. We offer breastfeeding education classes, primarily our Breastfeeding 101 class, where we really educate families around how to get breastfeeding off to the best start. And I really personally love this class so much because I just finished watching Milk Minutes with two of our CLCs from the Center for Urban Breastfeeding. And the one, Ebony, she pointed out, she was like, after you've already given birth and you're trying to breastfeed, that's not the time to ask the questions about how to breastfeed. And so she was like, breastfeeding 101 is so important because it gives you that information about how to get breastfeeding off to the best start, about what to expect. So I love breastfeeding 101. We talk about the historical element of our current breastfeeding rates among the Black population. We talk about what your breast milk looks like in the first couple days, how it transitions, how to tell if your baby's getting enough, common challenges that families experience when breastfeeding their babies in the first couple days, and then how to resolve those issues, including, and most importantly, calling our 24-hour latch line service to receive the support that you need. The other service is our 24-hour latch line service. So families who are experiencing any type of breastfeeding challenge, have breastfeeding questions, just generally need some support or a cheerleader, can call our latch line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they will be connected to one of our lactation professionals. We have a CBC, a certified breastfeeding counselor, CLC, certified lactation counselors, and internationally board certified lactation counselors, namely Renee Green and Ngazi Tibbs are supporting the latch line. So we have a variety of different lactation professionals to provide support. And again, the support is on call 24/7. So it could be the middle of the night and you're having trouble latching that baby. You can call the latch line. They can set up a video call and walk you through how to get the baby attached. So that's a really important resource. And we really focus on providing that support in those early postpartum stages, because we know that that's where there's a lot of drop off in the first 2 weeks. So when we first launched, that was really our focus. Like, how do we make sure that people have the support they need in the first 2 weeks so that they can sustain breastfeeding as long as they desire to do so? And then the third, and probably one of the most important things that we do in the Cub, is we're really focusing on increasing the number of Black lactation professionals that we have locally. We know that our Black families want to receive services that are culturally appropriate and that quite honestly are from folks that look like them. And so it's really important for us to make sure that we're supporting that pipeline. So every year we provide a few CLC scholarships and then contract with those CLCs to support other moms through the latch line. So that's really exciting. We also supported there's only 4 Black internationally board certified lactation counselors in all of Allegheny County. We supported one of them in getting their IBCLC, and we're currently supporting another young lady in getting her IBCLC as well. So we're really trying to build that pipeline and make sure we have Black lactation professionals locally. But all in all, we're just trying to create to improve the breastfeeding ecosystem so that folks have the support that they need everywhere. So we're trying to make work with employers to improve their maternal health policies. We're trying to make Wilkinsburg a breastfeeding family-friendly community so that they have all of the resources in the community to be able to sustain breastfeeding if they so choose. So we're trying to really change the atmosphere of Allegheny County and make sure that families have the support that they need if and when they want to breastfeed.
Absolutely. And if there was one ask, I think that we would have of the Brown Mamas community, it would be to spread the word about the benefits of breastfeeding, especially to people in your family, friend group who may be pregnant or planning to get pregnant or desiring to get pregnant. because as Demia said, when you're in that hospital bed with that baby, that's not the first time to try to explore breastfeeding. That it does not hurt, even if you already kind of have your mindset on formula or you're not sure. It doesn't hurt to attend a breastfeeding class prenatally. It's not high pressure sales. We are not trying to stronghold you into any choice, but we do want to make sure that you're educated and can make a good choice. Formula is everywhere. It's in our faces. There's millions, billions probably of dollars that are put into formula advertising. And we need to have just as much of a focus on promoting the benefits of breastfeeding, and then of course allowing families to choose. So it doesn't hurt to say, hey sis, I know that you are thinking about this. I know that WIC offers formula. And just so everyone's clear, WIC is not meant to offer you your whole month's worth of formula. So just knowing that there is still a very steep cost. Formula is not cheap. It's really costly, as many of us know. But it doesn't hurt to explore what is breastfeeding all about. What may I need to do to be prepared? And after you have your baby, you can always, there will always be the choice. Well, it's hard to say that in a formula crisis, but if we weren't in a formula crisis, there will always be the choice to get some formula. But when you're, I just want everyone to have the opportunity to explore this wonderful chance to bond with your baby, to give your baby the best nutrition. I mean, there is nothing like sitting there and looking at that little wrinkled baby nursing eye to eye. And there's a reason that your baby's vision, is what is it, farsighted, when they can only see a couple inches. There's a reason that your baby can only see a couple inches and that their eyesight has to develop. That's because they are meant to be looking into your eyes while they're at your breast. So all of this is, it's biological and it's by design. And again, we understand that people make other choices, but it doesn't hurt to explore and to be educated on the benefits of breastfeeding. And then you make your choice. But during that first day at whatever hospital or birthing center, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get to see a lactation professional. If you're just relying on the way that our system currently functions and operates. There's a shortage of lactation professionals in the hospitals. They're probably not going to see you until 24 hours after your baby's born. If you're having struggles with the latch, if you do decide I want to try this and your baby's not feeding, the nurse is going to come in and they're going to push formula on you. They're going to tell you your baby's blood sugar is getting low. They're going to start, this was my own experience, knowing that I had, planned to breastfeed, but I have small babies. So here came the nurses with the formulas and they're very aggressive. And they don't want your baby to go into shock. But if you are not equipped, it is easy to get discouraged in those first couple of days. It's easy not to be able to meet your goals, and to feel like it's not doable when it is doable with the right support.
And I just want to add, because Jada, you mentioned like spreading the information around the benefits of breastfeeding, which are numerous. But what are the benefits of breastfeeding? So both mom and baby benefit from breastfeeding in various different ways. But we see breastfed infants, of course, they get that first immunization they call breast milk. So they get those additional immuno properties from breast milk that are developed specifically for them. They get the perfect nutrition that's, again, developed specifically for them. Babies who are breastfed have lower rates of obesity, childhood obesity. They have they're believed to have better they have better brain development and are believed to perform better in school and grade school. And then there's also the benefits to moms as well, such as lower rates of some breast and ovarian cancers, lower rates of osteoporosis and other diseases. So you burn a few extra calories. I can't guarantee you're going to snap back, but you do burn extra calories when you're breastfeeding. So I know a lot of postpartum moms look forward to that. And then it helps for your uterus to contract back to its normal size, which is really important in the health of Black moms who often experience postpartum morbidity and mortality. So that's really important that we're making sure that we're facilitating that process to our bodies returning to its pre-pregnancy state. So there's so many benefits to breastfeeding. And so as you're sharing information about breastfeeding, it's important to share that information as well.
Great points, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And just wanting to reiterate some of the things that Jada and Demia talked about. They have a CLC program that trains lactation consultants. So I just want to reiterate that to
And
our moms.
employees. And
Say that
employees.
again.
And employees. So trains you and then employs you.
Oh, wow. So just want to reiterate that, say that again, because I know that our moms, one of the things that they enjoy about the Pittsburgh Brown Mamas is finding out about different ways that they can have agency in their lives. So this is yet another way that you can become a vital part of your community is by becoming a certified lactation consultant. And I think, well, I don't want to speak too soon, but I know Healthy Start is also doing some work in the doula space. So just be on the lookout for that, about the birth plan and all the work they're going to be doing in that space as well. So I think we can end here because it's getting dark in my office.
Can I make one just final comment? Going back to resources for moms who are formula feeding, who may be experiencing a shortage. So I think that I want to circle back to making sure that you're getting information from well-vetted sources and consulting with your provider. So your doctor, you may have the conversation with your pediatrician around earlier introduction of solid foods or earlier introduction of cow's milk, if that's an option for you. And again, those are things that have been, those are safer alternatives to homemade formula that you and your medical provider can discuss. They are things that are possible. It's really important not to try to stretch your formula by watering it down. That disrupts the nutrient balance and can disrupt your child's nutrition and can be dangerous as well. So when we're talking really about those first 6 months when formula might be more exclusively what your child digests, and a lot of our families start introducing those mashed potatoes, the rice, and those soft solids much earlier. But again, not necessarily advised, but it's something that you should have a discussion with about your provider. But within the space of a formula crisis, it would be safer to have a discussion with your provider about the possibility of early introduction of solids than to try to make homemade formula. So I just wanted to say that there are different options and alternatives that you can explore with your medical provider to help bridge that gap, because this is a crisis. They're not things that would otherwise be recommended, but they are potentially safe alternatives to making your own formula.
Gotcha. And all this information you can find on Healthy Start's website at healthystartpittsburgh.org. So make sure that you go to the website and get the information that you need to make safe and healthy feeding. What was I going to say? I lost my word. I don't know what it was.
Choices.
Feeding choices. There we go.
There you go.
For your baby.
I know, Muffy, you're fading away. You're fading to black.
No, because my office is dark. I'm going to get up and turn the light on. I'm going to be
I also wanted to plug really quickly. One of the things that we're doing is, so Ngazi is she's our local holy grail of like all things perinatal health. And so we do have, if you are struggling with figuring out your own personal infant feeding situation, you can reach out to us via our website, and we will pay for you to have some time with Ngazi or another lactation professional on our team to make a personalized plan that works for you and your family and your infant. Because again, we don't want moms struggling and getting to the point of desperation where, we're going back to, and again, I know this is culture, but it's 2022 and we know differently and we know better, but we're not doing the carnation canned milk. It's just not, we don't have to do what we used to do because we know better. So if you are struggling and you would like some advice from the best of the best, reach out and we will get you connected. And you'll have the opportunity for an individualized consultation.
Absolutely. And Ngazi is undoubtedly one of the best people I know. So I've been, really appreciative of the time I spent with her when we did the Brown Mama monologues. And she's definitely a dope person to know. So make sure y'all take advantage of that. But all right, mamas, we are going to get off of here. I'm actually going to talk to y'all about doing some audio rooms over the next few weeks because we did one last night and it got a lot of traction. So I was like, we need to do some audio rooms because they're more engaging and people have a chance to talk. So we're going to be doing some audio rooms over the coming weeks about breastfeeding, about birthing, about taking care of yourself as a mom in those early days of motherhood. I call those the dog days because they can be really rough, but also really rewarding. So stay tuned, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you tuned in tonight, make sure you tag your friends in the comments that need to hear this video. If you know a mom who is dealing with the formula shortage right now and she needs some resources, make sure you give her that link. She can go to Healthy Start's website. She can also use that bit.ly link that I posted in the comments as well. So thank you, ladies. We appreciate y'all. Thank you for coming on and giving us all of this great information.
Thanks, Muffy. Thanks, Demia. Thanks, Brown Mamas.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Peace.
Good
Have a
night.
good night. All right.